So if you're listening and have something you'd like us to hear, you can send it over to us at the Head Scratcher at Outlook. I'll screw that up. At outlook.com, or direct message us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So the first one we've got for you is Don't Threaten Me With a Good Time. This is the debut EP from London-based three-piece Big Hug. The band are made up of guitarist and vocalist Tom Watkins, bassist and vocalist Henry Langston, and drummer Owen Mumford. Henry from the band kindly sent us the album after seeing Waco on the podcast, and figuring they were roughly in the same wheelhouse, thought we might be interested in their music. So I'm not sure Big Hug sound that much like Waco, but there's definitely that kind of DIY punk rock attitude in their music. Waco are tuned more towards like classic rock and punk, and I think Big Hug channel more of the kind of emo side of that kind of music of the early noughties, late 90s. The band even described themselves as indie post-punk with a touch of 90s emo your older sister would like. I feel like at this stage we're probably the older sister here in this story. So when I listen to this, I hear kind of some of the more underground stuff I was listening to as a teenager, like stuff like Days in December, Hiding with Girls, Rufio. There's bits of Dan and Anna Aykroyd in there.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then there's stuff like The Used and Rival Schools on the kind of more mainstream end of things. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I love this EP. First song, Raise the Bar, the opening bars, just I found they were immediately uplifting. It's interesting you mentioned Dan and Aykroyd there, because I love that neat little kind of math rock guitar riff that you hear.
Yeah.
The vocal harmonies are beautiful and an absolute joy to listen to. For me, it kind of reminded me a bit of the Kestrel's album that we covered. Dream, Don't Dream, just ever so slightly less shoegazy, because I wouldn't describe these guys as a shoegaze band by any stretch of the imagination. Second song, Guinness Paltrow, which I thought was just an amazing name for a song. Kind of opens with this kind of spectral, kind of ethereal kind of guitar riff for a few bars before being met with this kind of really meaty, kind of choppy bass line, which was just brilliant. The call and answer post-chorus vocal refrain is just fantastic as well. And this is a song I just find myself kind of singing along to. And weirdly, I don't know, like whenever I listen to this song, you know, I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, I don't know what it's about. You know what I mean? But for some reason, I think it's because it's got like Guinness in the title. I kept having images of this guy like ordering a pint of Guinness and then taking it back. And I don't know why. I think it was just that one lyric, just like, there's always a reason. I think there's always a reason. Go ahead and ruin it. It's, you know, like that thing where, you know, there's this, I don't know, mythology around pouring pints of Guinness. You know what I mean? It has to be done in a certain way. And having worked in bars before, like, I would get people that I'd pour pints of Guinness and different beers and that for folk, and they'd be like, oh no, that's off, or like there's something a bit wrong with that. So I don't know why, whenever I listen to the song, I've just got images of somebody like constantly going over to the bar, ordering a pint of Guinness. You know, I think again it's that lyrics, just like what was it? I've just said it as well. I know what he came for. I know it's dangerous. Knowing find well that he's just gonna send it back. Who knows, man? I'm just waffling nonsense, but I can't get that image out of my head for some reason.
I don't get any of that, to be honest. But
I'd love that to be true, though. I would love that to be true.
Yeah, definitely. I agree that the name of the song is fantastic. And this is one of the songs that reminded me, it's like a bit of a stomp to it that reminded me of The Used, The Taste of Ink, just not quite as heavy, but it was just kind of a stomp to it that reminded me of that. You know, there's mixtures of poppy vocals, there's grungy vocals, there's catchy hooks, there's drilling guitar lines, bubbling bass, clean guitars. Like, it's just a really good song as well. It's not just a good name, it's also a good song.
Yeah.
And the track after that, Danny is the Greatest Lover, it reminded me of the Manic Street Preachers when it starts up. It's like the opening instrumental reminded me of A Design for Life. It's just similar kind of guitar in the opening. Maybe a little bit more ethereal than that song, but and then there's a cool guitar solo in there that reminded me a bit of Turnstile, which is never a bad thing. And I just kept finding I kept singing along to that Danny is the Greatest Lover part. I found myself just kind of walking through the car park yesterday on the way to my car, like singing that part. I just kind of got stuck in there.
There's flourishes of kind of Sonic Youth in there as well. Like you kind of mentioned that guitar riff, that kind of discordant kind of guitar bridge at around I think it's the 1:22 mark, kind of put me in mind of Sonic Youth's Diamond Sea. There's a kind of similar kind of bit in there as well. There's kind of wee twinges of David Santiago as well, but yeah, another belter, another earworm, as you quite rightly said. I found myself singing that line over and over again as well.
Yeah. I think the title track, Don't Threaten Me With a Good Time, has got more of that kind of Dan and Aykroyd, mathy kind of guitar stuff. And there's some really good jagged, distorted guitars that come in. There's just a really good amount of crackle and fuzz on them. I think there's some Menzingers vibes on the final track, All Yours, mostly in the vocals, especially on the chorus. And it's just super melodic, super nostalgic. I love the kind of anthemic lyrics that go, gone but never really left. I will have another drink for you waiting at the bar. It reminds me a bit of a band like there's a band called Spielbergs as well, who are just kind of, it's kind of that emo thing, but a bit more shoegazy. But the melody of those lyrics and the delivery of those lyrics reminded me a lot of that band, which is quite cool.
Yeah, I've kind of similarly, All Yours, I've kind of said as well, kind of hits the ground running, as you quite rightly said, upbeat, kind of poppy in places, flourishes of the likes of Plumtree. For me, it felt cinematic. It felt as if it could have been in a soundtrack, perfectly balanced with a bit of kind of melancholia for those 90s early noughties feels is what I've written down here. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, man. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. What did you give it?
What do you think I've given it, Snids?
I don't know. I'll tell you where I am with it. I gave it an 8.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think it's like a if you're into this kind of thing, it's a must listen EP. It's and a lot of that is kind of how nostalgic it is for me. But it does, like, without sounding dated, it just sounds nostalgic and like modern, which is good.
Yeah, I think I give it a 9. So I think 8 or 9 is a pretty good rating. I would never have thought they were English though. Never have thought they were English.
What would you have thought they were?
I don't know. I thought
American.
Yeah, I would have thought they were American.
Yeah, I might have guessed they were American as well, to be fair. But I mean, you know, I've mentioned stuff like the Used and Rival Schools, and Rufio. They're all American bands, so yeah, fair enough. Okay, so that was Don't Threaten Me With a Good Time, the debut EP from Big Hug.
It's not finished. It's finished.